I slid the audit report across my polished mahogany desk and watched my sister's manicured hand freeze inches from the paper. The conference room had gone completely silent except for the soft hum of the ventilation system. Her mortgage broker shifted uncomfortably in the leather chair beside her. My managing partner stood near the window with his arms crossed, watching. Page 7, I said quietly. The section highlighted in yellow. Rebecca's eyes met mine. For the first time in 26 years, I saw actual fear there instead of contempt. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm recording this from my law office in Boston. Let me know in the comments which city you are watching from, because what I am about to tell you crosses every boundary of family loyalty I was raised to respect. The woman sitting across from my desk that afternoon was my older sister by 4 years. She had just asked me to co-sign a mortgage for $1.4 million on a brownstone in Beacon Hill. She had no idea that I had been waiting for this exact moment for 14 months. She had no idea what was in that audit report. And she definitely had no idea that the inheritance she stole from me 3 years ago was about to become evidence in a criminal investigation. To understand how we got to that conference room, I need to take you back to when our father died. My name is Diana Whitmore. I am 42 years old. For the past 18 years, I have been an attorney specializing in estate law and fiduciary litigation. That means I spend my days untangling the messes people create when they lie about money, steal from trusts, and manipulate inheritance documents. The irony of my specialty is not lost on me, considering what my own family did. I grew up in Brookline, Massachusetts, old money, the kind of family where your trust fund gets mentioned before your college acceptance. My father, Harrison Whitmore, built a commercial real estate empire worth approximately $47 million by the time he was 60. My mother, Constance, came from shipping money. Together they had 2 daughters, Rebecca, the golden child who could do no wrong, and me, the one who asked too many questions. Rebecca married a finance executive named Gregory Ashford when she was 28. They bought a house in Newton with family money. She never worked a day in her life, but somehow always had opinions about everyone else's career choices. I went to Boston University for undergrad, then Harvard Law. I graduated in the top 15% of my class. I joined a mid-sized firm doing contract work and spent 5 years learning how wealthy families destroy each other over money. Our father had always been specific about his intentions. He told us at family dinners, during holidays, in casual conversations. When I am gone, everything gets split equally between you 2 girls. Equal shares. I built this for both of you. He said this so many times it became background noise. Rebecca would smile and nod. I would thank him. Neither of us questioned it, but here is what I noticed that Rebecca did not. Starting around 2018, our father began forgetting things, small things at first. He would repeat stories at dinner. He would forget which car he drove to the office. Once he showed up to a board meeting on the wrong day. My mother dismissed it as stress. Rebecca never noticed at all because she only visited when she needed something. I was the one who drove him to his doctor appointments. I was the one who sat with him when the neurologist confirmed early onset dementia. I was the one who held his hand when he cried about losing his memory. And I was the one who suggested we update his estate documents immediately while he still had capacity to make sure his wishes were crystal clear. He agreed. We met with his attorney, Martin Chen, in October of 2018. I sat in that meeting. I watched my father sign a revised will that explicitly stated his assets would be divided equally between Rebecca Jane Whitmore Ashford and Diana Marie Whitmore, 50-50. Martin walked us through every page. My father was lucid that day. He understood exactly what he was signing. Equal, he said, looking at me. I want you girls to take care of each other. I promised him we would. 6 months later, his condition deteriorated rapidly. By summer of 2019, he no longer recognized our mother some days. He moved into a memory care facility in October. The decline was brutal and fast. He passed away on March 22, 2021 at the age of 74. I was with him. Rebecca was at a spa weekend in the Berkshires and did not make it back in time. The funeral was tasteful and expensive. White roses everywhere. A string quartet, 200 people in attendance. Rebecca wore a black Chanel suit and cried beautifully for the cameras. I wore a simple black dress from Nordstrom and felt nothing but numb. Our mother stood between us during the service, gripping our hands so hard my fingers went white. After the burial, we gathered at my parents' house in Brookline. The estate attorney, Martin Chen, had scheduled a reading of the will for that afternoon. Everyone was there, my mother, Rebecca, and Gregory, my Aunt Judith, my father's sister. A few close family friends, and me. Martin opened his briefcase and pulled out a leather folder. Thank you all for being here during this difficult time. Harrison Whitmore was very clear about his final wishes, and I am here to ensure those wishes are carried out according to his instructions. I remember the way the light came through the bay windows. I remember my mother's pearl necklace catching the sun. I remember Rebecca sitting very straight in the chair beside Gregory, her hands folded in her lap like a woman who had never worried about money a single day in her life. Martin began reading properties, stocks, accounts, business assets. He explained that the estate's total value was approximately $47.3 million. My mother would receive $10 million outright plus the house and her personal accounts. The remaining $37.3 million would be divided between the two daughters. I waited for him to say it. Equal shares, 50-50, $18.65 million each. Instead, he said this. To my daughter Rebecca Jane Whitmore Ashford, I leave 75% of the residual estate, totaling approximately $27,975,000. I felt my heart stop. To my daughter Diana Marie Whitmore, I leave 25% of the residual estate, totaling approximately $9,325,000. The room continued breathing, but I could not. Rebecca's face showed nothing but calm acceptance. My mother dabbed her eyes with a tissue. Gregory patted Rebecca's hand. No one looked surprised. No one looked confused. No one except me. I found my voice. Martin, there must be a mistake. He looked at me over his reading glasses. I can assure you there is no mistake, Diana. My father told me the split would be equal, 50-50. I was there when he signed the revised will in 2018. Martin closed the folder. Harrison revised his will again in June of 2020. This is the final valid version. June 2020. My father had been in memory care for 8 months by that point. He could not remember his own address. He could not remember what year it was. And apparently, according to this will, he had decided to give Rebecca 3 times what he gave me. I turned to my mother. Did you know about this? She would not meet my eyes. Your father made his decision, Diana. He had his reasons. What reasons? He had dementia. He did not have capacity to revise anything by June of 2020. Rebecca spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft and sympathetic, the tone you use with children. Diana, I know you are upset, but maybe Dad saw something we did not see. Maybe he knew I would handle the responsibility better. I stared at her. Responsibility. Managing wealth is complicated. You were always so focused on your career. Dad probably thought I would be better positioned to preserve the family legacy. Gregory nodded along like a dashboard ornament. I looked around the room. My Aunt Judith was looking at her lap. Family friends suddenly found the wallpaper fascinating. My mother was still crying softly into her tissue. And Martin Chen sat there with his leather folder closed, his job done. I want to see the will, I said. The actual document, Martin hesitated. Then he opened the folder and slid a bound set of papers across the coffee table. I picked it up. My hands were shaking, but I kept my face blank. Years of courtroom training kicked in. Never show emotion. Never show your hand. I flipped through the pages. The language was standard. The distribution numbers were clear. And there on the signature page was my father's signature, dated June 14, 2020. Witnessed by 2 people I did not recognize. Below his signature was a notary stamp. Everything looked official. Everything looked legal, except I had seen my father's signature on dozens of documents. I had watched him sign cards, letters, checks. The signature on this will was shaky, uneven. The H in Harrison looped wrong. The tail on the W was too long. It looked like someone had traced his signature with an unsteady hand, but I did not say that out loud, not then. Not in that room full of people who had clearly already accepted this version of events. I set the papers down carefully. Thank you, Martin. He looked relieved. If you have any questions about the distribution process or the timeline, I will call your office, I said. I stood up. Rebecca stood too, reaching for me like she was going to hug me. I stepped back. I need some air. I walked out of that house and did not say goodbye to anyone. I sat in my car in the circular driveway for 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel. $9.3 million. It was more money than most people see in a lifetime. It would change my life, pay off my condo, fund my retirement, give me security, but it was not what my father promised me, and the will I had watched him sign in 2018 when his mind was still sharp had said equal. I started the car and drove back to my condo in Cambridge. I poured a glass of wine. I sat on my couch with the will copy Martin had given me, and I read every single word. Then I opened my laptop and started researching the 2 witnesses listed on the signature page. Carol Henderson, David Martinez. Neither name meant anything to me. A quick search showed Carol Henderson was a home health aide who had worked briefly at the memory care facility. David Martinez was an administrative assistant at a medical supply company, not family friends, not business associates. Not anyone my father would have trusted with something this important. I called Martin Chen's office the next morning. His assistant put me through. Diana, I was expecting your call. Martin, I need to understand something. When my father signed this will in June of 2020, was he evaluated for capacity? A pause. Harrison was deemed competent by the attending physician at the time of signing. Which physician? Another pause. I would need to check the file. Please check. He put me on hold. Music played for 4 minutes. Then he came back. Dr. Richard Paulson evaluated Harrison on June 12th and determined he had capacity to execute estate documents. And where is Dr. Paulson now? He retired in late 2020 and moved to Florida. How convenient. Did you personally witness this signing, Martin? No, I prepared the documents based on Harrison's stated wishes, but the signing occurred at the facility with the witnesses present. Based on whose stated wishes? My father could not remember his own birthday by June of 2020. Diana, his voice got firmer. I understand you are grieving and this distribution feels unfair, but the will is valid. It was properly executed. If you wish to contest it, that is your right, but I should tell you that will contests are expensive, time-consuming, and rarely successful. I am an estate attorney, Martin. I know exactly how difficult they are. Then you know the burden of proof is on you. You would need to prove Harrison lacked capacity or was subjected to undue influence. That is an uphill battle. Unless the will is fraudulent, silence on the other end, then that is a very serious accusation. It is also a serious crime. Diana, for your own sake, I would advise you to accept the distribution and move forward. Fighting your family over this will only hurt you in the long run. I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat at my kitchen table and made a list. Things I knew: my father signed a will in 2018, leaving everything 50-50. 6 months later, he lost capacity due to dementia. 18 months after that, a new will appeared giving Rebecca 75%. The signature looked wrong. The witnesses were strangers. The evaluating physician conveniently retired and left the state. Things I suspected: someone manipulated my father into signing this, or someone forged his signature. Or someone convinced a doctor to lie about his capacity. Things I needed: proof. I spent the next week barely sleeping. I went to work, handled my cases, billed my hours. Then I came home and dug into my father's medical records. I filed requests with the memory care facility. I contacted his primary care physician. I tracked down nurses who had worked with him. The picture that emerged was clear. By June of 2020, Harrison Whitmore could not follow a simple conversation. He asked the same questions on a loop. He became agitated when presented with complex information. Multiple staff members documented his decline. There were incident reports of him trying to leave the building because he thought he still lived at home. There were notes about medication adjustments to manage his confusion. And yet, according to Dr. Richard Paulson, he had capacity to execute a complex estate document. On June 12th, I filed a formal request for Dr. Paulson's evaluation notes. The facility dragged their feet. It took 6 weeks and 3 follow-up calls before I received a 2-page assessment that said, in generic language, that Harrison Whitmore understood the nature and extent of his property and the natural objects of his bounty. Boilerplate language, the kind of thing you write when you are doing someone a favor and not asking too many questions. I tried calling Dr. Paulson in Florida. His number was disconnected. I found him on social media. He did not respond to messages. Dead end after dead end. Meanwhile, the estate moved forward. Martin Chen distributed assets according to the will. Rebecca received $27.975 million. I received $9.325 million. The transfers were completed by August of 2021. My mother called me twice during that process, both times to ask if I was okay. Both times I said I was fine. Both times she sounded relieved and changed the subject. Rebecca called me once. I know this has been hard for you, Diana. If you ever need help with financial planning, Gregory knows some excellent advisors. I thanked her and said I would think about it. Then I went back to my research, because here is the thing about being an estate attorney. I know exactly how these schemes work. I have seen families forge signatures. I have seen adult children manipulate elderly parents into changing wills. I have seen caregivers, advisors, and relatives convince confused seniors to sign documents they do not understand. And I know that the people who do this are always careful. They cover their tracks. They get just enough documentation to make everything look legitimate. They rely on the fact that most people will not have the resources or the knowledge to fight back, but I had both. In September of 2021, I hired a private investigator named Marcus Webb. He specialized in financial fraud and elder abuse cases. I paid him $15,000 up front to dig into everything surrounding that will. What exactly are you looking for? He asked during our first meeting at a coffee shop near my office. Connections, I said. Carol Henderson, the witness; David Martinez, the other witness; Dr. Richard Paulson, who evaluated my father; Martin Chen, the estate attorney; and my sister Rebecca. I want to know if any of them had relationships before that will was signed. Marcus took notes. You think this was coordinated? I think my sister wanted more of the inheritance and found a way to make it happen. That is a serious allegation. I am aware. He studied me for a moment. You understand that even if I find connections, that does not prove fraud, it just raises questions. Questions are a start. Marcus delivered his first report 3 weeks later. Carol Henderson had worked at the memory care facility for 8 months. She was fired in July of 2020 for an undisclosed policy violation. 1 month after witnessing my father's will, she received a cash payment of $12,000 from an LLC called Ashford Properties 2 weeks after being fired. Ashford Properties was registered to Gregory Ashford, my brother-in-law. David Martinez was harder to trace. but Marcus found that he had worked as a temp at a medical billing company that contracted with the memory care facility. He quit that job in August of 2020, no record of where he went afterward. Dr. Richard Paulson had retired suddenly in November of 2020. He sold his practice and moved to Boca Raton. He purchased a beachfront condo for $785,000 in cash. That purchase happened in December, 6 months after he evaluated my father. And Martin Chen, the estate attorney who prepared the new will, had a professional relationship with Gregory Ashford. They served together on a nonprofit board. They golfed at the same country club. None of this was proof, but it was a pattern. I called Marcus. Can you find out who contacted Dr. Paulson to perform that evaluation? I can try. Medical facilities keep scheduling records. Give me a few days. A week later, Marcus called me back. The request for the capacity evaluation came from Rebecca Ashford. She contacted the facility administrator directly and asked them to arrange it. She said she wanted to make sure her father's affairs were in order. Did she pay for the evaluation? The facility billed it to your father's account, but Rebecca coordinated the whole thing. I sat with that information for a long time. My sister had arranged for a doctor to evaluate our father's capacity. That doctor had determined he was competent, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. That doctor had then retired early and bought a condo in cash. And the two witnesses who signed the will had both received money or disappeared shortly afterward. This was not a coincidence. This was a plan, but here is the problem with proving fraud. You need evidence that would hold up in court. You need documents, recordings, testimony. You need something that shows intent and coordination. Everything I had so far was circumstantial, suggestive, not enough. I needed more. I made an appointment with a forensic handwriting expert named Dr. Patricia Vance. I brought her copies of my father's signature from various documents over the years, including the will from 2018. Then I showed her the signature from the 2020 will. She examined them under magnification for an hour. When she looked up, her expression was grim. "This is not the same person," she said, tapping the 2020 signature. "Or if it is, they were signing under extreme duress or impairment. Look at the pressure points. Look at the letter formation. This signature has none of the natural flow of the earlier examples. It looks traced. Can you testify to that?" "In court, yes, but you should know that handwriting analysis can be challenged. The opposing side will bring their own expert who will say something different." "I understand. There is something else." She pointed to a small mark near the signature line. "See this, it is a hesitation mark." The pen stopped mid-stroke and started again. That is consistent with someone carefully copying a signature rather than signing naturally. I thanked Dr. Vance and paid her fee. Then I added her report to my growing file. By December of 2021, I had spent over $40,000 on investigation and expert analysis. I had a file 3 inches thick, and I had enough evidence to raise serious questions about the validity of that will, but I still did not have proof of who forged the signature. I did not have a witness willing to testify about being paid off. I did not have a recording of Rebecca coordinating the scheme. And then in January of 2022, something happened that changed everything. My mother called me. Her voice sounded strange, tight. "Deanna, can you come to the house? I need to talk to you about something." I drove to Brooklyn that afternoon. My mother answered the door looking 10 years older than the last time I had seen her. Her hair was grayer. Her face was drawn. She led me into the living room and poured us both tea. Then she sat down across from me and said, "Your sister is in trouble." I waited. "She and Gregory have been living beyond their means for years. The house in Newton has 2 mortgages on it. They owe money to private lenders. Gregory made some very bad investments and lost a significant amount." "How much?" "Several $1,000,000. I processed this. And Rebecca came to me last month asking for a loan, $2.4 million. She said it was for a business opportunity. I told her I did not have that kind of liquidity. She became very upset. She said I owed her. She said I had always favored you and this was my chance to make it right. The irony was so thick I could taste it. My mother continued. During that conversation, she said something that disturbed me. She said I did what I had to do to get what I deserved. I asked her what she meant. She would not explain, but the way she said it, Diana. It sounded like a confession. I leaned forward. "Do you think Rebecca manipulated Dad's will?" My mother's hands shook around her teacup. "I think your sister was very angry that your father planned to split everything equally. She believed she deserved more because she gave him grandchildren, because she maintained the social connections, because she embodied the life he had built. And you knew this." I knew she felt that way. I did not know she would act on it. "Did you know about the new will before Dad died?" My mother looked at me, really looked at me. "Rebecca told me in May of 2020 that she had convinced your father to revise his estate plan. She said it was for the best. She said you would be fine because you had your career." I did not ask questions because I did not want to believe my daughter was capable of what I suspected. I stood up. I needed to move or I would scream. "So you knew. You knew the will was not legitimate and you said nothing." "I did not know it was not legitimate. I just knew Rebecca had influenced it somehow. There is a difference." "Not to me." My mother started crying, real tears this time, not the performative grief from the funeral. I am sorry, Diana. I was a coward. I did not want to face the truth about what she had done, and I thought maybe it was for the best. Maybe Rebecca did need the money more. Maybe you would be okay. I walked to the window and stared out at the garden my father had loved. I need you to tell me everything Rebecca said, every detail, and I need you to write it down and sign it. My mother agreed. She spent the next hour telling me about Rebecca's mounting debts, her arguments with Gregory, her resentment toward me for having a successful career while she stayed home. She told me about the time Rebecca had visited our father at the memory care facility in early June of 2020 with papers in her hand. She told me about the phone calls between Rebecca and Martin Chen that summer, and she told me that Rebecca had mentioned paying someone to help with the arrangements. I left my mother's house with a signed statement and a recording of our conversation on my phone. Then I called Marcus Webb. I need you to subpoena Carol Henderson's bank records and David Martinez's. I need to see every deposit they received between May and August of 2020. That requires a court order, Diana. You would need to file suit. Then I am filing suit. I spent the next 2 months preparing a complaint to contest the will. I alleged fraud, forgery, undue influence, and lack of capacity. I attached Dr. Vance's handwriting analysis. I attached medical records showing my father's cognitive decline. I attached Marcus's investigation report. I attached my mother's signed statement. And I filed it in Suffolk County Probate Court on March 15, 2022. Rebecca's attorney contacted me 3 days later. His name was Dennis Harlow, and he sounded annoyed. Ms. Whitmore, I represent your sister in this matter. These allegations are baseless and frankly offensive. Your sister is prepared to fight this contest vigorously. Good, I said. Discovery should be interesting. I am calling to offer you an opportunity to withdraw your complaint, save everyone the time and expense of litigation. Not interested. You received over $9 million, Ms. Whitmore. Most people would be grateful. Most people did not watch their sister commit fraud. He hung up on me. The case moved slowly through the court system. Motions, counter-motions, requests for documents. Rebecca's legal team tried every delay tactic available. They challenged my standing to contest the will. They moved to dismiss based on statute of limitations. They argued that I had accepted the distribution and therefore waived my right to contest. Every motion failed. In August of 2022, the judge ordered Rebecca to produce all communications with Carol Henderson, David Martinez, Dr. Richard Paulson, and Martin Chen for the period of January 2020 through December 2020. Rebecca's attorney filed an emergency motion to quash the subpoena. The judge denied it. Discovery was a bloodbath. Rebecca had been careful, but not careful enough. There were text messages between her and Carol Henderson discussing timing. There was an email from Rebecca to Dr. Paulson thanking him for his help and mentioning a future referral. There was a wire transfer from Ashford Properties to David Martinez for $25,000 labeled as consulting fees. And there was a voicemail from Rebecca to Martin Chen that said, I just need you to prepare the paperwork exactly how we discussed. Dad will sign anything I put in front of him. He does not even read anymore. Marcus obtained all of this through the discovery process. He walked into my office one afternoon in October and dropped a banker's box on my desk. Everything you needed, he said. It is all in there. I went through the box page by page. The evidence was overwhelming. Rebecca had coordinated every aspect of the scheme. She had paid off the witnesses. She had arranged for Dr. Paulson to rubber stamp the capacity evaluation. She had worked with Martin Chen to draft documents that would pass a cursory review. And she had visited our father at the facility on June 14th with the papers and guided his hand to make the signature. She had stolen $18.65 million from me, and she had done it while our father was too confused to understand what was happening. I prepared a motion for summary judgment based on the evidence, but before I filed it, I wanted to see if Rebecca would settle. I had my attorney Catherine Stone contact Dennis Harlow with an offer. Rebecca would return the $18.65 million she took plus interest. In exchange, I would not pursue criminal charges for fraud and forgery. Dennis called back 2 hours later. My client rejects your offer. She maintains the will is valid. Even with the voicemail, a long pause. We believe that voicemail is being taken out of context. Good luck explaining that to a jury. I filed the motion for summary judgment in November. The hearing was scheduled for January 9, 2023. Rebecca and I did not speak during this entire period. Not once. My mother tried to mediate twice, and I told her I was done mediating. Gregory sent me an email calling me vindictive and cruel. I did not respond. The only person from my family who reached out with any kind of sincerity was my Aunt Judith. She called me in December and said, I always knew Rebecca had a ruthless streak. I just did not think she would turn it on you. Your father would be devastated. He would also want this fixed, I said. He would keep fighting Diana. The hearing in January lasted 4 hours. The judge reviewed the evidence. She questioned both sides. She examined the handwriting analysis, the medical records, the text messages, the wire transfers. She listened to the voicemail recording of Rebecca admitting our father would sign anything. Then she took a recess to review the case law. When she came back, her face was granite. I find the evidence of fraud and undue influence to be overwhelming and convincing. The will dated June 14, 2020 is hereby declared null and void. The prior will dated October 23, 2018 is reinstated as the valid last will and testament of Harrison Whitmore. The estate shall be redistributed according to the terms of that will. Ms. Rebecca Ashford is ordered to return all assets received in excess of her 50% share, plus interest calculated at the statutory rate. Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the district attorney's office for potential criminal prosecution. Rebecca made a sound like she had been punched. Gregory put his hand on her shoulder. Dennis Harlow started to object, and the judge cut him off. The evidence is clear, counselor. Your client engaged in a deliberate scheme to defraud her sister and manipulate a vulnerable elderly man. This court will not reward that behavior. The gavel came down. I walked out of that courtroom and sat in my car for 15 minutes before I could drive. I had won. The will was overturned. Rebecca would have to pay back $18.65 million plus 3 years of interest, but I did not feel victorious. I felt exhausted. Catherine Stone called me that evening. The district attorney's office wants to meet with you. They are considering charges for fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. What are the chances they prosecute with this evidence high? Rebecca committed multiple felonies. The DA is not going to ignore that. And if she is convicted, 5 to 10 years, maybe more if they stack the charges. I thought about that. My sister, in prison, it is what she deserved. It is what the law demanded. But it is also what would destroy my mother and my niece and nephew, who were 7 and 9 and did not deserve to lose their mother to prison. Tell the DA I will cooperate fully, I said. But let me think about the victim impact statement. Catherine understood what I meant. A victim impact statement could determine whether the prosecution pushed for maximum sentencing or accepted a plea deal. I had leverage now, real leverage, and I was about to use it. Over the next 3 months, Rebecca's life unraveled. The court-ordered redistribution of assets meant she had to liquidate investments, sell property, and drain accounts to come up with $18.65 million. Gregory's business was already struggling, so they had no cushion. They put the Newton house on the market. They sold both their cars and leased cheaper ones. Rebecca's friends stopped calling. My mother tried to help them financially, but her own assets were tied up in trusts and property. She could not come up with that kind of cash quickly. In March of 2023, the DA's office formally charged Rebecca with 3 counts of fraud, 2 counts of forgery, and 1 count of elder abuse. She was arrested at her house and spent 6 hours in custody before Gregory posted bail. The news made the local papers. Brookline estate fraud, daughter steals millions from dementia patient. The family name we had spent generations building was mud. My phone rang constantly. Reporters, old friends asking if it was true, distant relatives taking sides. I stopped answering calls from numbers I did not recognize, and then in April, Rebecca called me. I almost did not pick up. But something made me answer. What do you want, Rebecca? Her voice was small, broken, nothing like the confident woman who had told me Dad probably thought she would handle money better. I need to talk to you, please, in person. We have nothing to discuss. Please, Diana, I will come to you anywhere you want. I just need 15 minutes. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a coffee shop in Cambridge, neutral territory. Rebecca looked terrible. Her hair was limp, no makeup. She wore jeans and a sweater that looked like she had been sleeping in it. She sat down across from me and immediately started crying. I am so sorry, she said. I know that does not mean anything now, but I need you to know I am sorry. I did not say anything. I was desperate, Diana. Gregory had lost so much money. We were drowning. I thought if I could just get a bigger share of the estate, we could fix everything. I did not think about what it would do to you. I did not think about Dad. I just panicked. You did not panic, I said quietly. You planned for months. You paid people off. You forged documents. You manipulated a man with dementia. That is not panic. That is calculated fraud. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. You are right. You are completely right. I have no excuse. Why are you here, Rebecca? She wiped her eyes with a napkin. The DA wants to send me to prison. My attorney says I am looking at 7 years minimum. My kids will be teenagers when I get out. Gregory is talking about divorce. I will lose everything. You already lost everything. You just did not realize it yet. I know, but I am begging you, please talk to the DA. Tell them you do not want me prosecuted. They will listen to you. You are the victim. I leaned back in my chair. You want me to let you walk away from this? I will pay you back every dollar. I will sell everything. I will work. I will spend the rest of my life making this right. But please do not let them take me away from my children. I looked at my sister, the woman who had stolen from me, who had forged our father's signature while he sat in a memory care facility barely able to remember his own name, who had called me incompetent and irresponsible and told everyone in the family I should be grateful for whatever scraps I received. And I thought about my niece and nephew, 7 and 9 years old. They had not done anything wrong. I will think about it, I said. I stood up to leave. Rebecca grabbed my hand. Thank you, Diana. I swear I will make this right. I pulled my hand away and walked out. I did not make any promises, but I also did not say no. The truth is, I did not know what I wanted. Justice, revenge for my sister to suffer the way she had made me suffer, or did I want my family to stop destroying itself? I thought about it for weeks. I talked to Catherine. I talked to my therapist. I even talked to my mother, who begged me to show mercy. And then in May of 2023, I made my decision. I wrote a victim impact statement. In it, I detailed everything Rebecca had done, the fraud, the manipulation, the betrayal. I did not minimize or excuse any of it. But I also wrote that I did not believe prison would serve justice in this case, that I believed restitution, community service, and supervised probation would be more appropriate. That I wanted my sister to face consequences, but I did not want my niece and nephew to lose their mother. The DA was not happy. She committed serious crimes, Ms. Whitmore. I know, but I am asking you to consider a plea deal. Why, after everything she did to you? Because I do not want to become the kind of person who destroys families for revenge. I want the money back. I want her to admit what she did, but I do not need her in prison to feel whole again. The DA agreed to offer a plea deal. Rebecca would plead guilty to fraud and elder abuse. She would receive 5 years probation, 800 hours of community service, and a permanent felony conviction. She would also be required to make full restitution of $18.65 million plus interest, totaling just over $21 million. Rebecca accepted the plea in June. The judge made her allocute in open court. She had to stand in front of a room full of people and describe exactly what she had done. Every detail, every lie. It was brutal to watch, but it was also necessary. After the hearing, Rebecca approached me in the hallway. Thank you, she whispered. I know I do not deserve your mercy. You do not, I agreed, but your kids do, so do not waste this chance. She nodded and walked away with Gregory, who had stayed through everything despite the divorce threats. The restitution process took another 8 months. Rebecca and Gregory sold the house, the cars, the vacation property in Maine. They liquidated retirement accounts and took massive tax penalties. Gregory sold his share of his business. They moved into a rental apartment in Watertown. By February of 2024, I had received the full $21 million. Added to the $9.3 million I had already received, my inheritance totaled just over $30.3 million, exactly what I was owed from the original equal split, plus compensation for 3 years of theft. My mother called me when the final transfer cleared. It is over now, Diana. Can we please try to be a family again? I do not know, Mom. You let this happen. You knew Rebecca was manipulating Dad and you said nothing. I know I have to live with that, but I am asking you to forgive me anyway, not because I deserve it, but because I am your mother and I love you. I told her I would think about it, and I have been thinking about it. Some days I think maybe I can forgive her. Other days I remember sitting in that reading of the will, feeling my world collapse, and I get angry all over again. But I am working on it. Rebecca and I have not spoken since the restitution was completed. She sends me cards on my birthday and holidays. I do not respond. Maybe someday I will, but not yet. What I did do was take some of that money and start a nonprofit foundation that provides free legal services to families dealing with elder abuse and estate fraud. I named it after my father, the Harrison Whitmore Justice Fund. We have helped 43 families so far recover stolen assets and hold abusers accountable. That feels like the right way to honor what he actually wanted, not the fraudulent will Rebecca created, but the real man who built something and wanted his daughters to take care of each other. We failed at that, but maybe I can help other families do better, which brings me to April of 2025. 14 months after the restitution was finalized, 14 months of silence between Rebecca and me, and then she showed up at my law office asking me to co-sign a mortgage for $1.4 million. My assistant buzzed me. Diana, your sister is here with someone from a mortgage company. She says it is urgent. I almost told her to send Rebecca away, but curiosity got the better of me. What could she possibly want from me now? Send them to conference room B. I grabbed the file I had been keeping. The file I had maintained for over 2 years, just in case. Then I walked into that conference room and saw Rebecca sitting there with a mortgage broker named Stephen Chen, looking nervous but hopeful. Diana, she said, standing up, thank you for seeing us. I sat down across from them. What is this about? Stephen cleared his throat. Ms. Ashford is applying for a mortgage to purchase a property in Beacon Hill, $1.4 million. The lender requires a cosigner due to her credit history and recent financial issues. She has requested that I cosign, I finished, putting my credit and assets on the line for her mortgage. Yes, Rebecca said quickly. I know it is a big ask, but Gregory got a new position, a really good one. We can afford the payments. We just need someone to cosign to satisfy the lender. You would not actually have to pay anything. It would just be on paper. I looked at her. Why would I do that? Because I am your sister, because I have paid back everything I owe you, because I am trying to rebuild my life and I need help. I nodded slowly. Then I opened my folder and pulled out a document, a financial audit I had commissioned 6 months ago just to keep tabs on Rebecca's situation. I slid it across the table. Page 7, I said, the section highlighted in yellow. Rebecca's hand froze. Her perfectly manicured fingers hovered over the document like she had touched something hot. Mortgage broker Stephen Chen leaned forward slightly curious. What is this? Rebecca asked. Her voice had changed, lighter, uncertain. An audit, I said calmly, of your current financial situation. I had it prepared 6 months ago just to keep myself informed. Stephen glanced between us, sensing the temperature drop in the room. Rebecca flipped to page 7. I watched her eyes move across the highlighted section, once, twice. Then her whole body went very still. This says, she stopped. Started again, this says Gregory and I are $4.7 million in debt. 4.83 million, I corrected. The audit is from October. You have taken on more since then. Stephen's face changed. He reached for the document. Rebecca held it away from him. How do you know this? Her voice came out sharper now. The Rebecca I remembered from the will reading. The one who told me I should be grateful for scraps. I leaned back in my chair. Because I am an attorney who specializes in financial fraud, Rebecca. Did you really think I would not keep tabs on you after what you did? After what she caught herself, glanced at Stephen, lowered her voice. That is ancient history. I paid back everything. I did my community service. I have a felony conviction that will follow me for the rest of my life. What more do you want? I want to understand, I said, keeping my tone pleasant and professional, why a woman who is almost $5 million in debt thinks she can afford a $1.4 million mortgage in Beacon Hill. Stephen cleared his throat. Ms. Ashford told me she and her husband recently came into some money, a business investment that paid off. I looked at Rebecca. She would not meet my eyes. What business investment? I asked. Silence. The kind that fills a room like smoke. Rebecca, what business investment? She set the audit down carefully. Gregory started a consulting firm. It is doing well. We have contracts lined up. Show me. What? Show me the contracts, the business registration, the client list. If this firm is real and profitable enough to support a $1.4 million mortgage plus your existing $4.83 million in debt, you should have documentation. Stephen shifted uncomfortably. Ms. Whitmore, I am not sure this is. I am being asked to put my name and credit on the line for this mortgage, I interrupted, not taking my eyes off Rebecca. That makes this very much my business, so I will ask one more time. Show me proof this consulting firm exists and is profitable. Rebecca's jaw tightened. I do not have the documents with me. Then this meeting is over. I started to stand. Rebecca reached across the table, not touching me, just reaching. Wait, please, Diana. Just wait. I sat back down. Looked at Stephen. Can you give us a moment? Family matter. Stephen looked relieved to escape. He gathered his tablet and stepped out into the hallway, closing the conference room door behind him. Rebecca waited until his footsteps faded. Then she turned to me with an expression I had not seen in years, desperation mixed with something that might have been shame. There is no consulting firm, she said quietly. I know. Then why did you ask? Because I wanted to hear you lie to my face again. See if you had learned anything. She flinched, actually flinched. That is not fair. Fair, I let the word hang there. You want to talk about fair? You forged our father's signature while he had dementia. You stole $18.65 million from me. You paid off witnesses. You coordinated fraud across multiple people. And when you got caught, I showed you mercy. I kept you out of prison. And now you are here, lying about a fake business, asking me to co-sign debt you cannot afford. I am trying to rebuild my life. By drowning yourself in more debt, by lying to mortgage brokers, by coming to the sister you stole from and asking her to bail you out. Rebecca's hands were shaking. Real shaking this time, not the performance kind. I do not know what else to do. I pulled out my phone, opened a file, turned the screen toward her. This is the payment history on your current debts. You have missed payments on 3 different credit cards in the last 6 months. You are behind on your car lease. Your rent is late right now as we sit here. You owe $214,000 to private lenders at interest rates that would make loan sharks jealous. She stared at the screen. How do you have this information? Because I hired people to track it, the same way I tracked everything else you did. Why? The word came out raw. Why are you still watching me? You won. You got your money back. You destroyed my reputation. I have nothing left. Why are you still paying attention to what I do? I took my phone back. Because I wanted to know if you learned anything from what happened, if getting caught taught you to be honest, if facing consequences made you a better person. And you just tried to commit mortgage fraud right in front of me. You brought a broker to my office and lied about having income you do not have, expecting me to sign documents that would make me liable for debt you cannot pay. So no, Rebecca. You have not learned a single thing. She put her face in her hands. Her shoulders started shaking. For a moment I thought she was crying, then I realized she was laughing, a terrible, broken sound. You are right, she said through her hands. You are absolutely right. I have not learned anything. I am still the same person who thought she could fix everything by taking what was not hers, except now I have a felony record and no options left. I watched her. Part of me felt satisfaction. This was justice. This was consequences catching up to someone who had hurt me deliberately and without remorse. But another part of me, smaller and quieter, felt something close to pity. Why did you really come here? I asked. She lowered her hands. Her mascara had smudged. because you are the only person left who might help me. Everyone else has written me off. Mom gave me what she could, but she's tapped out. Gregory's family cut us off completely. I have no friends anymore. No one will take my calls. You are it, Diana. You are the only person who still has resources and might possibly remember we are sisters. We are not sisters, I said quietly. We are two women who share DNA and a traumatic history. That is not the same thing as family. I know, she wiped her eyes with her sleeve. I know I have no right to ask, but I am asking anyway. Please help me. Help you how? Co-sign a mortgage you cannot afford. Give you money you will blow through in 6 months. What exactly do you think I should do? I do not know. Whatever you think is right, I will accept whatever conditions you set. I will sign whatever you want. I just need a way out of this hole. I looked at her, really looked at her. The designer clothes were gone. The perfectly styled hair had been replaced by a simple ponytail. The confidence that used to radiate from her like heat had collapsed into something desperate and small. This was what winning looked like. This was my sister, broken and begging, and I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not anger, not even pity anymore, just exhaustion. I am not going to help you, Rebecca. She nodded slowly, like she had expected this. Okay, but I am going to give you some advice, free of charge. I am listening. Stop trying to live the life you used to have. Stop trying to maintain appearances. Stop buying things you cannot afford and pretending you are still the same person you were before all of this happened. You are not that person anymore. That person committed multiple felonies and lost everything. You are someone different now. Start acting like it. What does that mean? It means you get a job, a real job, not a consulting firm that does not exist, something that pays an actual salary with benefits. It means you sell whatever you have left that is worth anything. It means you move somewhere you can actually afford. It means you live within your means and you slowly, over years, climb out of this hole you dug. That will take decades. Yes, it will. That is what consequences look like. Rebecca was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, "Did you ever forgive me?" "No. Do you think you ever will?" I thought about that question. I had been asking myself the same thing for years. "I do not know," I said honestly. "Right now I do not hate you. I do not think about you most days. When I do think about you, I mostly feel sad that it came to this. Maybe that is a kind of forgiveness. Or maybe it is just indifference." "I have not decided yet." She nodded again, stood up, smoothed her sweater like she was trying to gather whatever dignity she had left. "For what it is worth," she said, "I am genuinely sorry, not because I got caught, not because I want something from you, but because I look back at what I did and I am ashamed. I do not expect you to believe that, but it is true. I stood too. Then prove it. Go live a quiet, honest life, pay your debts, show up for your kids. Stop trying to scam your way back to the top. That would mean more to me than any apology." "I can do that. We will see." She walked to the door, stopped with her hand on the handle. "Can I ask you one more thing? Why did you meet with me today? You could have had your assistant turn me away. You could have ignored my calls. Why did you agree to see me?" I considered lying, considered saying something kind or diplomatic. Rebecca had asked for honesty, and maybe that was the one thing I could still give her. Because I wanted to see if you had changed, and because I wanted to watch you lie to my face one more time so I could be absolutely sure I made the right choice in cutting you out of my life. She absorbed that. "And are you sure?" "Completely." She opened the door. Stephen was standing in the hallway, checking his phone. He looked up hopefully. "We are done here," Rebecca told him. "I am withdrawing my mortgage application." Stephen looked confused. "Are you certain?" "We could try to work something out. I am certain. Thank you for your time." She walked past him toward the elevators. Stephen looked at me, still confused. "Family complications," I said. "I am sure you understand." He nodded slowly and followed Rebecca down the hall. I went back into my office and closed the door, sat down at my desk, looked out at the Boston skyline through my window. My assistant buzzed me. "Everything okay? Everything is fine. Do you need anything?" "No, thank you, though." I hung up and pulled out the audit report, flipped through the pages one more time. $4.83 million in debt, missed payments everywhere, credit destroyed, no real income. Rebecca was drowning and I had just refused to throw her a rope. Some people would call that cruel. My mother certainly would. She had been calling me every few months, asking me to reconcile with Rebecca, to show her grace, to remember we were family. But family was not supposed to forge your signature and steal your inheritance. Family was not supposed to lie to you for years and then show up asking for favors like nothing had happened. Family was supposed to mean something. I put the audit back in my drawer and locked it. Then I opened my laptop and got back to work. 3 weeks later, my mother called. "Rebecca told me what happened at your office." "I am sure she did. She said you refused to help her." "That is accurate." A long sigh on the other end. "Diana, she is your sister. She is a felon who stole from me and just tried to commit mortgage fraud in my conference room. Being related to me by blood does not entitle her to my money or my co-signature. She is struggling. She is struggling because of choices she made, choices she is apparently still making based on that mortgage meeting. Everyone deserves a second chance. I gave her a second chance, Mom. I kept her out of prison. That was her second chance. What she does with it is up to her." My mother was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "When did you become so hard?" The question stung more than I wanted to admit. "When my family stole from me and then blamed me for being upset about it. That is not fair. I never blamed you. You never defended me either. When Rebecca stole that inheritance, you knew something was wrong. You told me yourself you suspected it, but you said nothing. You let it happen. And now you are calling me hard for refusing to enable her again. I am calling you hard because you have resources to help your sister rebuild her life and you are choosing not to. Correct, I am choosing not to because helping Rebecca has never actually helped Rebecca. It has just delayed the consequences of her actions and taught her that someone will always bail her out. Well, not anymore, not from me. So you are just going to watch her lose everything. She already lost everything, Mom. That happened when she decided to commit fraud. What she is doing now is learning to live with the consequences. My mother made a sound that might have been frustration or grief. Your father would be heartbroken to see you two like this. My father would be heartbroken to know Rebecca forged his signature while he had dementia. Let us not pretend he would be on her side in this. He would want his daughters to reconcile. Then he should not have raised one daughter to be a thief and the other to be a doormat. We are both doing the best we can with what we were taught. My mother hung up without saying goodbye. I sat there holding the phone for a while after the call ended, wondering if I was being too hard, wondering if mercy was something I owed or something that had to be earned. I called Catherine Stone, my attorney. She had been with me through the entire will contest. She knew the whole story. Am I being unreasonable? I asked after explaining the mortgage meeting. Catherine laughed, actually laughed. Diana, you are being completely reasonable. Your sister tried to commit fraud in front of you and expected you to co-sign the documents. That is not someone who has learned their lesson. That is someone who thinks the rules still do not apply to them. My mother thinks I should help her. Your mother enabled your sister's behavior for decades. Her opinion on this topic is compromised. I know, but it still bothers me. Why? Because what if I am being vindictive? What if I am punishing Rebecca because it feels good instead of because it is the right thing to do? Catherine was quiet for a moment. Then she said, let me ask you something. If a stranger came to you with the same history, felony conviction for fraud, nearly $5 million in debt, trying to get you to co-sign a mortgage they clearly cannot afford, would you do it? Of course not. Then why would you do it just because she shares your DNA? Rebecca is not your responsibility. You do not owe her rescue. You do not owe her forgiveness. You do not even owe her a relationship. What you owe is to yourself, and yourself deserves to not be dragged into your sister's financial disaster. I knew she was right, but knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are different things. Thank you, Catherine. Anytime. And Diana, stop second-guessing yourself. You won, you got justice. You moved on. Let Rebecca figure out her own life. I hung up and tried to take her advice. Over the next few months, I heard through the family grapevine that Rebecca and Gregory had moved out of their rental in Waterton. They were living somewhere cheaper. Gregory had taken a job at a smaller firm for a fraction of his previous salary. Rebecca was working retail at a department store. My mother mentioned it during one of our increasingly rare phone calls. She is trying, Diana, she really is. Good, I said, and I meant it. I wanted Rebecca to get her life together. I just did not want to be the one funding the effort. Summer came. I threw myself into work. The Harrison Whitmore Justice Fund was growing. We had hired 2 more attorneys and a full-time case manager. We were helping families in 3 states recover assets from elder abuse and estate fraud. Every time we won a case, I thought about my father, about the man he was before the dementia took him, about how proud he would have been to see his name attached to something that actually helped people. In August, I got an email from an address I did not recognize. The subject line said, "From Rebecca." I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won. The email was short. Diana, I know you do not want to hear from me. I am not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that I am working at Nordstrom in the Natick Mall. Sales associate, 40 hours a week plus commission. Gregory and I moved to a 2-bedroom apartment in Framingham that we can actually afford. We sold everything that was worth anything. We are paying down our debts slowly. It will take years, maybe decades, but we are doing it. I'm also seeing a therapist twice a week, working through a lot of things about why I made the choices I made, why I thought I deserved what I took, why I justified what I did to Dad and to you. I do not expect forgiveness. I do not expect us to ever be close again, but I wanted you to know I heard what you said, and I am trying to live differently. Take care of yourself. Rebecca, I read the email 3 times, then I closed it without responding. Catherine was right. Rebecca was not my responsibility. Whether she got her life together or not was not my concern, but I did not delete the email. I moved it to a folder and left it there. In September, I got a call from Marcus Webb, the private investigator who had helped me during the will contest. Diana Whitmore, long time. Marcus, what can I do for you? I actually called to tell you something. Remember Carol Henderson, the witness who Rebecca paid off? I remember. She just got arrested. Another elder abuse scheme. She was working as a home health aide again, convinced an 83-year-old woman to change her will. Same playbook as what happened with your father. Is the family pressing charges? Already did. The DA called me because of our work on your case. They want me to testify about the pattern. Thought you would want to know. Thank you for telling me. There is something else. The DA is looking into whether Martin Chen knew what he was doing when he prepared that will for your father, whether he was part of the conspiracy or just willfully ignorant. What did they find? Still investigating. But between Carol Henderson's new charges and some financial records they pulled, it is not looking good for him. He might be facing disbarment. I absorbed that information. Martin Chen, who had told me not to contest the will because it was too hard to win. Who had prepared documents for my father when my father could barely remember his own name. Let me know if there is anything I can do to help, I said. Will do, take care, Diana. I hung up and sat with the news. Carol Henderson arrested again, Martin Chen under investigation. The scheme that had stolen from my father was falling apart years later, piece by piece. Justice moved slowly, but sometimes it moved. In October, I was deposed for the case against Carol Henderson. I spent 4 hours in a conference room going through everything that had happened with my father's will. The timeline, the witnesses, the payments, the forged signature. The prosecuting attorney was a woman named Jennifer Moss. She was sharp and thorough and clearly angry about what had happened. People like Carol Henderson prey on families during their most vulnerable moments, she said during a break. Your case helped us establish a pattern. Without your willingness to fight that will contest, we might never have caught her doing this again. I am glad something good came from it. More than you know, we have identified 3 other families who were victimized by similar schemes. Your father's case gave us the blueprint to go after the people who exploit the elderly. I thought about that on the drive home. My father's suffering had not been meaningless. The fight I waged to get justice had ripple effects I never expected. Sometimes fighting back does more than just save yourself. Sometimes it protects other people too. November arrived cold and gray, Boston winter settling in early. I was working late at my office one evening when my assistant buzzed me. Deanna, there is someone here to see you. She does not have an appointment, but she says it is important. Who is it? A pause. Your sister. I almost said to send her away, but something stopped me. Give me 5 minutes, then send her in. I used those 5 minutes to close the files on my desk. Put my professional armor back on, prepare for whatever this was. When Rebecca walked in, I barely recognized her. She was thinner, her hair was natural, not highlighted. She wore a simple sweater and jeans, no designer labels, no expensive jewelry. She looked tired, but somehow more real than I had seen her in years. Thank you for seeing me, she said, standing awkwardly near the door. You have 5 minutes, she nodded, stayed standing. I'm not here to ask for anything. I just needed to tell you something in person. Go ahead. I heard about Carol Henderson being arrested and Martin Chen being investigated. I know you helped with that case. I know you spent time being deposed and giving evidence. It was the right thing to do. I know, and I wanted to say thank you, because what they did to Dad, what I helped them do to Dad, it was evil. And if they are finally facing consequences for it, part of that is because you refused to let it go. You fought when I expected you to just accept it. You dug when I thought you would give up, and now other families are being protected because of what you did. I did not say anything. I did not trust my voice. Rebecca continued. I also wanted to tell you that I testified too. The prosecutor contacted me and asked me to give a statement about how Carol approached me, how the scheme worked, what Martin Chen knew. I told them everything, all of it, even the parts that make me look worse. Because I am done protecting myself at other people's expense. Why are you telling me this? Because you were right. Everything you said that day in your conference room was right. I had not learned anything. I was still trying to scam my way through life, but I am learning now, slowly. And I wanted you to know that the person who stole from you, who hurt you, who tried to use you, that person is not who I want to be anymore. Wanting to change and actually changing are different things. I know. That is why I am not asking you to forgive me or trust me or have any kind of relationship with me. I am just telling you that I heard you and I am trying. She turned to leave. I stopped her. Rebecca, she looked back. How are your kids? Something in her face softened. They are okay, adjusting. It has been hard on them. The move, the lifestyle change, their friends asking questions, but they are resilient. And I think seeing their mother actually work for a living is teaching them things I never learned at their age. Good, she nodded. I should go. Thank you for your time. Wait, I opened my desk drawer, pulled out a business card. This is a financial counselor who specializes in debt management. She's not cheap, but she is good. If you're serious about climbing out of that hole, she can help you make a plan that actually works. Rebecca took the card carefully, like it might disappear. Why are you giving me this? Because I do not want to help you financially, but I can point you towards someone who knows how to do it yourself. What you do with that information is up to you. Thank you, Diana. Really, she left. I sat at my desk for a long time afterward, wondering if I had just made a mistake or taken a small step towards something that might eventually resemble peace. I still had not decided when winter fully set in and the year turned over. 2026 arrived quiet and cold. I spent New Year's alone in my condo, drinking good wine and reading case files. It was exactly how I wanted to spend it. In January, Catherine Stone called me. The Suffolk County Bar Association is disbarring Martin Chen. The ethics committee found he knowingly participated in the fraud against your father. He is done. How is he taking it? About as well as you would expect. He is trying to appeal, but it will not go anywhere. The evidence is too strong. Good, there is something else. The restitution from Rebecca, all 21 million that she paid back, the court has ruled that you are entitled to additional damages for emotional distress and legal fees incurred during the contest. Another 3.2 million. I had not expected that. From Rebecca, from her and from Martin Chen jointly. He was found liable as a co-conspirator. Rebecca will pay what she can over time. Martin will pay the rest from his remaining assets. I do not need more money, Catherine. I know. But the court wants to send a message. What they did to you and your father was not a civil disagreement. It was a coordinated fraud. The damages reflect that. I thought about it. Put any money from Martin Chen into the Harrison Whitmore Justice Fund. Whatever Rebecca pays, set up a trust for her kids' education. I do not want it, but they should not suffer because of what their mother did. Catherine was quiet for a moment. That is generous. It is not generous. It is practical. Rebecca's kids did not choose this. They should not pay the price. I will set it up. February brought the final resolution of the Carol Henderson case. She was convicted on 3 counts of elder abuse and 2 counts of fraud, sentenced to 8 years in prison. I attended the sentencing hearing, sat in the back of the courtroom, and watched justice finally happen. The judge looked at Carol Henderson and said, "You preyed on vulnerable elderly people during the final years of their lives. You manipulated them, stole from them, and robbed their families of resources that were meant to provide security and legacy. The harm you caused is immeasurable, and the fact that you did it multiple times shows a complete lack of remorse or moral character." Carol Henderson cried, apologized, said she was sorry. The judge was unmoved. 8 years, no early parole. I walked out of that courtroom feeling something I had not felt in years. Closure, not happiness, not celebration. Just the quiet certainty that the people who had hurt my father and stolen from me had finally faced consequences that matched their crimes. I went back to my office and worked until late. When I finally drove home, Boston was covered in fresh snow. The city looked clean and new under the streetlights. I parked in my garage and sat in the car for a few minutes, thinking about everything that had happened since my father died, the will reading that destroyed my world, the investigation that consumed my life, the court battle that nearly bankrupted me emotionally, the slow, painful process of rebuilding afterward. And then I thought about where I was now, a successful attorney with a practice I was proud of, the founder of a nonprofit that had helped dozens of families recover from fraud, a woman who had fought back and won. I had not chosen this path. I had been forced onto it by betrayal and theft, but I had walked it anyway, and I had come out the other side stronger than I went in. That had to count for something. I went upstairs to my condo, poured myself a glass of wine, stood at the window looking out at the snowy city. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. "I am proud of you for everything you have done for the foundation, for fighting back, for standing your ground. Your father would be proud too." I stared at the message for a long time. My mother and I were not close anymore. Too much had happened. Too many times she had chosen Rebecca or chosen silence instead of choosing me, but this text felt genuine. Like maybe she was finally seeing what I had accomplished instead of just focusing on the family drama I had caused by refusing to accept being stolen from. I texted back, "Thank you, that means something." A minute later, "Can we have dinner sometime? Just the two of us?" I thought about it. Part of me wanted to say no, to keep the distance I had built, to protect myself from more disappointment. But another part of me was tired of being angry, tired of cutting people out, tired of fighting. "Yes," I texted back. Dinner would be good. We set a date for the following week. I had no idea if it would go well, if we would be able to rebuild any kind of relationship, if my mother would finally understand why I had done what I did, but I was willing to try. In March, the Harrison Whitmore Justice Fund won its biggest case yet. A family in Vermont whose grandmother had been manipulated into changing her will by a caretaker. We recovered $2.8 million in stolen assets. The caretaker was arrested. The family was whole again. I flew to Vermont for the resolution hearing, watched the family cry and hug each other, watched the grandmother who was still alive and whose mind was still sharp enough to understand what had almost happened to her legacy. She came up to me afterward, took my hands in hers. Thank you for fighting for people like me." "You are welcome," I said. "No one should be stolen from when they are vulnerable, especially not by the people they trust. Your father would be so proud of what you have built." I nodded, not trusting my voice. She squeezed my hands one more time, then she went back to her family, who surrounded her with the love and protection she deserved. I flew back to Boston that night, looked out the airplane window at the clouds below, lit by moonlight. My father was gone. Rebecca had betrayed me. My family had fractured in ways that might never fully heal. But out of all that pain, I had built something that mattered, something that protected other people from the same nightmare I had lived through. That was not nothing, that was everything. April arrived with early warmth and blooming trees. I was walking through Boston Common on my lunch break when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. "Diana Whitmore. Ms. Whitmore, this is Jennifer Moss, the prosecutor from the Carol Henderson case." "I remember. How can I help you?" "I wanted to let you know that we have been contacted by the FBI. They are investigating a larger network of elder abuse schemes operating across the Northeast. Carol Henderson, Martin Chen, and several others are part of it. They want to use your case as a reference point. Would you be willing to speak with them?" "Of course. Thank you. This could be big, Diana. We are talking about dozens of victims. Maybe hundreds. Your willingness to fight back might help take down an entire operation. I sat down on a bench, watched people walk by with their dogs and their coffee and their normal lives. Whatever you need, I said, I will help however I can. Jennifer gave me the contact information for the FBI agent leading the investigation. We hung up. I sat on that bench for a long time, processing what she had told me. The fraud that had stolen from my father was not an isolated incident. It was part of something bigger, something organized, and my refusal to just accept it, my insistence on fighting back, had started pulling at a thread that might unravel the whole operation. Sometimes one person standing up makes all the difference. I went back to my office and called the FBI agent, scheduled an interview for the following week, started gathering all the documentation I still had from the Wilkin test. If I could help stop this from happening to other families, then everything I had been through would matter even more. The interview with the FBI happened in late April. I spent 6 hours going through every detail of the scheme, how Rebecca had coordinated it, how Carol Henderson had been paid, how Martin Chen had provided legal cover, how Dr. Paulson had falsified the capacity evaluation. The agent taking notes was named Robert Chen, no relation to Martin, thankfully. He was thorough and professional and clearly angry about what he was hearing. People like your sister make this possible, he said during a break. The schemes only work when family members are willing to betray each other for money. I know, and yet you showed her mercy. You kept her out of federal prison. Why? I had been asked this question a lot over the years, by Catherine, by Marcus, by journalists who covered the case, by myself late at night when I could not sleep. Because her kids did not deserve to lose their mother, I said, and because destroying her completely would not have given me back what I lost, it would have just created more pain. That is remarkably compassionate considering what she did to you. I am not sure it is compassion. I think it is just pragmatism. Rebecca was always going to face consequences. I got to choose whether those consequences destroyed her children too. I chose not to do that. Robert nodded. Well, for what it is worth, your pragmatism is helping us build a case against much worse people. Carol Henderson has started cooperating. She has given us names, locations, bank accounts. We are going to shut this network down. Good. We finished the interview. Robert walked me to the elevator. Thank you for your time, Ms. Whitmore, and thank you for fighting back. A lot of people in your position would have just taken the $9 million and walked away. I thought about it, I admitted. But I could not live with myself if I did. The world needs more people like you. I rode the elevator down to the lobby, walked out into the spring afternoon. The city was alive with people and noise and movement. Somewhere in the city, Rebecca was working a retail shift at Nordstrom. My mother was probably having lunch with her book club friends. Catherine was billing hours at her firm. Marcus was investigating another case. And I was standing on a sidewalk in downtown Boston, having just spent 6 hours helping the FBI dismantle an elder abuse network. Life was strange and unpredictable and sometimes brutally unfair. But sometimes, if you fought hard enough and refused to give up, justice actually happened. I walked back to my office with the sun on my face and the knowledge that what I had survived was helping protect other people from the same nightmare. That was worth something. That was worth everything. In May, I had dinner with my mother. We met at a quiet Italian restaurant in the North End, neutral territory. She looked older, more fragile. The strain of the last few years had carved lines into her face that had not been there before. We ordered wine, made small talk about the weather in her garden and the book she was reading, avoided the real topics for as long as we could. Finally, over our entrees, she said, I owe you an apology. I waited. When Rebecca manipulated your father's will, I knew something was wrong. I knew and I said nothing. I told myself I was being neutral, that I was trying to keep the peace, but I was really just being a coward. Yes, I said quietly, you were. She flinched but did not argue. I have been thinking a lot about why I did that, why I chose not to protect you, and I think it is because I was always a little afraid of you. Afraid of me? You were always so capable, so smart, so independent. Rebecca needed me in ways you never did. And I think part of me wanted to be needed, so I protected the daughter who made me feel important and ignored the one who seemed like she would be fine no matter what. I set my fork down. That is a terrible reason to let someone steal from their sister. I know I am not offering it as an excuse, just as an explanation. We sat in silence for a moment. Around us, the restaurant hummed with conversation and the clink of silverware. I am sorry, Diana, truly. For what Rebecca did and for my part in allowing it. You deserved better from both of us. I looked at my mother, really looked at her. She was 73 years old. She had lost her husband to dementia, watched one daughter commit fraud and the other wage war to get justice. Her family had fractured and might never fully heal, and she was finally, years too late, admitting her part in all of it. Thank you for saying that, I said. Do you forgive me? I do not know yet, but I am willing to keep having dinners like this and see where it goes. She nodded, took a sip of wine. That is more than I deserve, probably, but it is what I am offering. We finished dinner, talked about safer topics, my work, her friends, the foundation I had started in my father's name. When we left the restaurant, my mother hugged me, a real hug, not the performative kind she used to give at family events. I love you, Diana. I should have said that more when you were growing up. I should have shown it better. I love you too, Mom. We went our separate ways. I walked back to my car feeling lighter than I had in years. Forgiveness was not a switch I could flip. It was a process, a slow rebuilding of something that had been shattered. But maybe if we both kept trying, we could find our way back to each other. Summer came hot and humid. The Harrison Whitmore Justice Fund continued to grow. We hired 2 more attorneys and opened a second office in Providence. Requests for help were coming in faster than we could handle them. In July, I was contacted by a journalist from the Boston Globe. She was writing a feature article about elder abuse and wanted to interview me about my father's case and the foundation I had started. We met at a coffee shop. She was young and earnest and clearly passionate about the topic. "What made you decide to fight back?" she asked, her recorder running on the table between us. "I did not really decide," I said. "It just felt impossible not to." My father was a good man who built something meaningful with his life. Watching someone steal from him while he was vulnerable and confused, I could not let that stand. But it cost you years of your life, legal fees, emotional toll. Was it worth it? I thought about that question. Yes, because it was not just about the money. It was about dignity, about making sure my father's real wishes were honored, about showing that people who prey on the vulnerable will face consequences. So yes, it was worth it. And the foundation, what made you start that? Because once you have lived through this nightmare, you understand how many other families are going through the same thing, how many people feel powerless and afraid and do not know how to fight back. I wanted to give them the resources I had, the knowledge, the support. Nobody should have to face this alone. The article ran in August, front page of the Metro section. It included photos of my father, details of the case, and information about the foundation. Within a week, we received over 200 requests for help, people from all over New England who had been victimized by similar schemes, families who had given up hope of ever getting justice. We could not help all of them. We did not have the resources, but we helped as many as we could, and for the ones we could not take on directly, we connected them with other attorneys and advocates who could. The work was exhausting and often heartbreaking, but it mattered. Every family we helped. Every dollar we recovered, every abuser we held accountable, it all mattered. In September, I received a letter in the mail, handwritten from Rebecca. I almost threw it away without reading, but curiosity won again. The letter was short. "Diana, I read the article about you and the foundation. I cried reading it, not because I felt sorry for myself, but because I was so ashamed to see what you built from the wreckage I created. You took the worst thing that happened to you and turned it into something that helps other people. You honored Dad in a way I never could. I am still working at Nordstrom, still paying down debt, still seeing my therapist, still trying to be someone I am not ashamed of. I do not expect us to ever be close. I do not expect you to forgive me. But I want you to know that watching you succeed, watching you help people, watching you honor Dad's memory, it makes me want to be better. Thank you for showing me what strength actually looks like." Rebecca, I read the letter twice. Then I folded it carefully and put it in my desk drawer next to her email from months ago. I still did not know if Rebecca and I would ever have a real relationship again, if the damage was too deep to repair, if forgiveness was even possible after what she had done. But I knew that she was trying, and maybe that was enough for now. October brought the first anniversary of the FBI investigation Robert Chen had mentioned. He called to update me. "I've taken down 17 people so far, caregivers, attorneys, financial advisors, even a few doctors. The network was bigger than we thought. They have been operating for over a decade. How many victims? At least 230 families that we have identified so far, probably more we have not found yet. Total estimated theft is over $160 million. I felt sick. That many people. And Diana, your case broke this open. Your refusal to accept what happened to your father, your willingness to fight and testify and help us investigate, it made all of this possible. You saved a lot of families from going through what you went through. I just did what anyone would do. No, you did what most people are too afraid or too tired or too broken to do. You fought back, and it mattered. We hung up. I sat at my desk staring at nothing. $160 million stolen from vulnerable families. 230 victims identified. And my decision to contest my father's, will it help stop it? Sometimes I wondered what would have happened if I had just accepted the $9.3 million and walked away. If I had told myself it was not worth the fight, if I had let Rebecca keep what she stole, the answer was clear. The network would still be operating. Carol Henderson would still be preying on elderly people. Martin Chen would still be providing legal cover for fraud, and hundreds more families would be victimized. One person standing up had made all the difference. I thought about that a lot over the following weeks, about agency, about the choice between accepting injustice and fighting back, about what happens when someone decides that enough is enough. My father used to tell me when I was young and angry about some playground unfairness, the world will only be as just as we make it, Diana. Nobody else is going to fix it for you. I had not understood what he meant back then, but I understood now. Justice was not something that just happened. It was something you fought for, something you built, something you protected. And sometimes, when you fought for it hard enough, you created ripples that protected other people too. November arrived with early snow. I was at my office late one evening reviewing case files when my assistant buzzed me. Diana, there is someone here to see you. She says it is personal. Who is it? Your niece, Rebecca's daughter. She is 17 and says she needs to talk to you. I had not seen my niece Emma since before the Will contest. She had been 7 then, now she was 17 and apparently standing in my office lobby. Send her in. Emma walked into my office looking nervous and determined in equal measure. She had Rebecca's eyes, but something in her expression reminded me of my father, a kind of stubborn strength. Hi, Aunt Diana. Emma, this is a surprise. Does your mother know you are here? No. I took the train after school. I will text her in a minute so she does not freak out, but I wanted to talk to you first. About what? She sat down in the chair across from my desk. About college and paying for it and everything that happened with Mom. I waited. I am applying to colleges this year. I want to study law. I want to be like you. Emma, I know what my mom did to you. She told me all of it. The forged will, stealing the inheritance, trying to get you to co-sign that mortgage. She told me because she wanted me to understand what happens when you lie and cheat and think the rules do not apply to you. That must have been hard to hear. It was, but I am glad she told me because I do not want to be like her. I want to be like you, someone who fights back, someone who stands up for what is right even when it is hard. I felt something catch in my throat. Emma continued. I know you set up a trust for my college, Mom told me. She said you did not have to do that after what she did to you, but you did it anyway because you did not want me to suffer for her mistakes. That is true. I wanted to say thank you, and I wanted to ask if I could intern at your foundation next summer. I do not need money. I just want to learn. I want to see how you help families. I want to understand how the law can actually make things right. I looked at my niece. 17 years old and already understanding things her mother had never grasped. Yes, I said, you can intern here. We would be lucky to have you. Emma smiled, a real smile that lit up her whole face. Thank you. I promise I will work hard. I will not waste the opportunity. I know you will not. She stood to leave, then hesitated. Can I ask you something else? Of course. Do you hate my mom? I thought about that question carefully. No, I do not hate her. I am angry about what she did. I am sad that it destroyed our relationship. But I do not hate her, and I am glad she has you and your brother. You two are the best thing she ever created. Emma nodded. She says the same thing about you, that you are stronger than she ever was, that she wishes she had been more like you instead of the other way around. She told you that all the time. She uses you as an example when she talks to us about doing the right thing even when it is hard. About being honest even when lying would be easier. About standing up for yourself. I did not know what to say to that. Emma gave me a quick hug. Thank you, Aunt Diana, for everything, for the trust, for the internship, for showing me what it looks like to be strong. She left. I sat at my desk for a long time afterward, thinking about the strange way life unfolds. Rebecca had stolen from me, betrayed me, nearly destroyed me, but her daughter wanted to be like me, wanted to fight for justice. Wanted to help families who had been victimized the same way I had been. Maybe that was its own kind of redemption. December arrived cold and clear. I spent Christmas alone again by choice. My mother invited me to dinner, but I declined. I was not ready for that yet. Maybe next year. I worked through the holiday, reviewed cases, answered emails from families asking for help, prepared for mediations scheduled in January. On New Year's Eve, I poured myself expensive champagne and stood at my window watching fireworks over Boston Harbor. I thought about the last 5 years, the devastation of learning I had been stolen from, the brutal fight to get justice, the slow rebuilding afterward, the foundation I had created, the families I had helped, the network of abuse I had helped dismantle. I thought about Rebecca, working retail and trying to rebuild her life. About my mother, slowly learning to see me as something other than the daughter who did not need her. About Emma, my niece, who wanted to follow in my footsteps. I thought about my father, about the man he had been before dementia took him, about the legacy he had wanted to leave and the one I had fought to protect, and I thought about myself, Deanna Whitmore, 42 years old, attorney, founder of the Harrison Whitmore Justice Fund, a woman who had been betrayed and had fought back and had won. I raised my glass to the fireworks. Here is to surviving, I said out loud to the empty room, and to making survival mean something. The fireworks exploded in gold and silver against the black sky. I drank my champagne and felt something that might have been peace. The next morning, I woke up to an email from Robert Chen at the FBI. Happy New Year, Diana. Wanted to update you. The last member of the Elder Abuse Network was arrested yesterday. 23 people total. They are all facing federal charges. Estimated restitution for victims will exceed $140 million. This case is closed because of you. Thank you for your courage. I read the email 3 times. The network that had hurt my father was gone. Every person who had participated was facing consequences. Families were getting their money back. It was over, really truly over. I got up and made coffee, looked out at the snowy city, felt the weight of the last 5 years finally lift. I had fought, I had won, I had helped others, I had survived, and now finally I could move forward. Not forgetting what had happened, not pretending it did not hurt, but no longer defined by it. I was Diana Whitmore. I had been a victim, but I had chosen not to stay one, and that choice had made all the difference. If you are reading this and you have been betrayed by someone you trusted, know this: you are not powerless. You do not have to accept injustice just because fighting back is hard. You do not have to let people who hurt you define the rest of your life. Stand up, gather your evidence, find your allies, fight back. It will be brutal, it will cost you. It will change you, but you are worth fighting for. Your dignity is worth protecting. Your truth is worth defending. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise. Hit that like button if this story resonated with you. Share it with someone who needs to hear that they can fight back and win. And comment below with the word justice if you are ready to stop accepting what you do not deserve and start demanding what you do. Your inheritance is waiting. Your vindication is possible. Your strength is real. Go claim it.